right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Takeover Tuesdays. I'm your host, Jessica Springs. And before I get to our special guest today, if this is your first time joining us, just let me take a moment to tell you what Takeover Tuesdays is. This is a platform where small business owners get to share their story and how they got to where they're at. And also just supporting the community. You know, we're a community. It's always important to connect with others and know who's in your neighborhood, know what services are available, and just get to know each other as neighbors. So that's what this show is about. And we're going to start off today with an introduction with our special guest. And this is Curt Peterson. Good morning, Curt.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm super excited because your business involves two of my favorite things. I mean, who? So Curt owns, Smith and Canon, which is ice cream and coffee. Those are like I can't live first of all without coffee every day. Ice cream, I have to limit myself. So
that's fair too.
Yeah, that's not an everyday thing, but I wish it was. How are you doing this morning?
You know, I'm doing all right. I'm doing what I'm always doing this time of day. I'm making ice cream. So I was here bright and early a couple hours ago making ice cream and getting ready for another day of sharing ice cream with people.
Yes. So we talked before yesterday and we were chatting. I was asking you about how early you start. Would you like to share how your morning starts out?
Yeah. So my morning usually starts around 5 or so. I usually wake up around 5, right around there, give or take 15 minutes. And that's where the day starts. I spend a little bit of time at home. My daughters rise early. But I'm usually here by 6 or 6:30, and that's usually the routine. I start making ice cream. I figure out what we need. I make ice cream until my restaurant supply store's open. Then I go and re-up on our ingredients that we're light on and make sure that everything's stocked in the store. And then it's back to making ice cream. I make ice cream all day while I have someone here sharing ice cream with folks. In the beginning of this business, wasn't like that. I would get here in the morning, make ice cream, take off the apron, start selling ice cream during the day. If I started getting low on a flavor, I'd start making ice cream while I was selling it to people. So things have changed in a number of ways.
Yeah, so I want to back up a little bit. You mentioned your daughters. So tell us how that connects with your business name.
Yeah, well, Smith and Canon are the owners of this place. They are my daughters. They are 6 and 3, and they love owning an ice cream store. It's always really been that way for them, being the age they are. Smith can just barely remember a time that I wasn't at least planning to make the store and working on designing it, and the store's been in Canon's life since she was born.
You know what I love about that is like you from the gate set a foundation for legacy by having them own a store.
That I'm glad you used that word. The word legacy means a lot to me. It means a lot to the tradition of my family, and it means a lot to me personally. So yeah, absolutely on purpose. It wasn't by happenstance, and creating an opportunity for my daughters to be able to imagine themselves engaging with a business that is current was a big deal. If I was in accounting or something, it might be difficult to capture the imagination of my daughters. But having an ice cream store, it's pretty easy to get their attention.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, I know they're young and I'm not trying to get you in trouble. Do you ever give them coffee?
Oh, neither of these two chicks need coffee. No, they don't get any coffee at all. Are you out of your mind?
I'm just asking.
Oh, no. No.
You're like, no, I want to sleep at night.
You just gave me the all over shivers.
I bet I did. What age do you think you're going to let them actually? Do they ever ask you? Are they curious?
They're not curious about it. And my guess is because we do have coffee at home. We do fresh coffee. Obviously, that's the other thing that we do here, other than ice cream, is we're really serious about coffee. We sell coffee beans at Smith and Canon. So we always have fresh ground coffee. The house always smells like coffee. My guess is, yeah, by the time they're 12 or 13, they're probably going to want to start drinking coffee. We'll cross that bridge at that point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to scare you this early in the morning.
That'd be horrible. All right, go ahead.
I want to dig in a little bit to your past, and what to me is always important is understanding someone's journey and kind of where they got to where they're at, because you always see the store owners or the business owners where they're at and think, gosh, I can't do that. They've got a store, they work, they've got employees. But those of us who have small businesses know that everything isn't what it seems. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it definitely is a journey, and it's a step at a time.
Well, it certainly is. I guess where in my history, as far as where I'm from and what I've done a lot of things. My first business that I had was a painting company when I was about 20, 21 years old, 20 years old, right in there. Had a painting company for a couple of years, and then I had my first brick and mortar business, and this is going to give away my age quite a bit. I owned a VHS rental store, and it was literally right down the street from a Blockbuster. So there you go.
There you go. Well, we're in
You
the
can
same
do the
neighborhood.
math right there. You can do the math right there. So I owned a video store, and it taught me a lot. It was a really good lesson. In fact, the video store was a great lesson on brick and mortar businesses. Any budding business owners, entrepreneurs that are currently about to engage their concept or execute. My first bit of advice to you is don't try and reinvent the wheel. And there's a lot of the fundamentals of your business have already been gone through trial and error by other folks. So do your due diligence, study what's been done, and make sure you're not spinning your wheels. That was the lesson I got from my very first business. When I was in college, before that, I studied communications, politics, and philosophy. So I was a double major in politics and philosophy, and I attended school on a communications scholarship to Hastings College, the same school that our mayor, Mike Hancock, attended. In fact, we were there at the same time for 1 year. I never got to use my communications background until relatively recently. After I moved to Denver about 15 years ago, I was selling insurance and ran into a friend from college that knew a little bit about what I'd done in college and asked me if I could put together some briefs and do some policy analysis on some municipal work that he had an interest in Nevada. And that actually ended up rolling me into work as a consultant for some people with business interests with the state legislature in Nevada, and then doing some consulting work with some legislators as well, and would do that during the legislative terms. I've really done a lot of just disparate things, really. So after doing that, I met my wife toward the tail end of that, and we were talking about a family and had to decide on which one of us was going to stay in their career and which one of us was going to stay home, because we wanted one of us to stay home. I stayed home. So I was a stay-at-home dad, and I took care of Smith and Canon while working part-time as bartender. And it was a grueling period, working really late nights and up really early in the morning. I stayed home with Canon. When she was born, I stayed home with her for about 6 months while I was designing this place. And then it was time to start executing. So I came back full-time to work. So that's what kind of brought us up to the point of opening Smith and Canon. And then this has been its own animal now for the last really 2 years.
Yeah, I think what I like that you mentioned is that I have a whole background in a plethora of things, but all of those things actually come together when you're running a business. People wouldn't think so, but you mentioned politics, bartending. They sound like they don't even connect, but all of those skills and learnings come together to make you a better business owner.
Well, you sure hope that, and that's what I like to express to people is, I mean, be humble. Like, be humble and spend every day trying to figure out what you don't know versus reflecting on what you do know, so that you can really try to make yourself better daily.
Yeah. And I mean, so now I know that I can talk politics with you and you can make me a drink at the same
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I can multitask, and I've seen about every '80s movie you could possibly imagine.
There
But
you
like, we can go anywhere.
So, talk a little bit about how your business has grown thus far from that 2 years ago to now, where you're at.
Yeah. So, well, there's a couple of things that we do differently at Smith and Cannon that are not the norm. It was featured recently in the Denver Post as one of really two actual gourmet ice cream restaurants in the city. And how they define that is someone who's truly mixing all the ice cream from scratch, and each flavor, each recipe is entirely different from the other one. So there's no general base that we're using. We're not flavoring a pre-mixed dairy mix of any kind. We're actually building the ice cream, all of it, bit by bit. So in the beginning, it was super frenetic. My grandfather would have said I was like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. Like I just was really struggling to keep up. I was just barely treading water. It takes so much energy to make the ice cream. And even time consuming to teach someone how to make the ice cream without feeling like you still have to monitor that process. So it was a real challenge to figure out a balance at first. By the end of last summer, we were doing about 100 transactions a day. That's a lot of transactions. And that was ice cream. We're selling ice cream by the scoop. But by the end of summer, something really interesting started happening. So it seemed like people started recognizing the difference in the ice cream, like fundamentally from other places that they were getting their ice cream from. And they were talking about the ice cream in that way. And so we had more people started to order pints, half pints, and gallons and quarts. We started getting more and more orders for quantities. People wanted to have the ice cream in their fridge. And I think it's really important to be nimble. And I'm going to keep mentioning the phrase being humble. Like life's trying to tell you something. The world's trying to tell you something. We don't have to be that like esoteric about it. Like there are lessons right in front of you every day. And you need to be able to understand your own equation for what is functioning well and what's not, and where you can tweak your concept, and some things you may need to leave behind, things that you thought were a really good idea. As we started selling more pints and quarts, I started gearing the menu more toward that, rewarding people fiscally for purchasing in quantity, and making it really clear to folks that there was a limited amount of flavors every day because that's what we do. We can only make so much of it a day. And so when it's gone, it's gone. And that's it. And that's a risky thing. You have to really believe that your product is good enough that people will come back. Even if they're disappointed that they couldn't get their favorite thing. What we found is people kept coming back, and so happy they did. So it made it so that we could get through our first winter, which was really difficult. What we fall back on for that is the coffee. Which is the other really important thing that we do. So by the concept for Smith and Cannon was, and this is when I said don't reinvent the wheel, I meant it. And I also think you should go with your gut. My concept with Smith and Cannon, my concern when designing this concept was, what am I going to do in the wintertime really? Like I can understand how you can make it through a winter as an ice cream store after being established, after you have 7,000 regulars that are going to float through your space. Like then you can imagine sustaining through winter even as an ice cream store. I didn't want to risk that, nor did I have the operating capital to manage that. Like this business needed to be successful immediately, and there needed to be a profit margin that I could really work with to create some operating capital immediately, which is why I did coffee too. So coffee lent itself to this gourmet ice cream concept because this is really kind of an ice cream parlor for grown-ups. They're really complex flavors. Some of them are hot. Some of them will make you go ouch. There's everything about this place suggests this is going to be a really grown-up experience for you. Well, what can we add to that? Another complex item that complements the ice cream that grown-ups love: coffee. And I was a kind of a coffee geek when I was in my 20s. So reaching back into that experience and re-educating myself about coffee, I toured about 6 roasteries in the area. And after discovering, well, like Christopher Columbus, I didn't discover them. They were already there, but Whiskey Barrel Coffee Roaster is amazing. And after running into Tall Fishman, amazing guy who owns that company, it was clear they were doing things there that other coffee roasters weren't. And no business was really taking advantage of everything that they had to offer. So I branded my own coffee beans through Whiskey Barrel, and we offer a line of coffee. So the services that we offer expanded over the course of the first 5 months. We went from just offering ice cream by the scoop to offering it by the pint and a quart. We went from offering just coffee drinks, high-end coffee beverages, to actually offering our own branded beans. And then we created a coffee club. So now we have about 75 members of the coffee club. We're shooting for 200 by fall. You get 25% off your coffee beans when you join our coffee club. We also have a coffee service for people's workplaces that I developed. So we actually will send and deliver AirPods, 4-quart and 5-quart AirPods to your workplace, to your break room. All the different things were devised to make winter more survivable ultimately and create as many different income streams for this place as possible. The boutique concept is actually, we're about 80% there. We're about to finish that in the next 2 weeks, where we will have our shelves installed, all of our gear, like our coffee cups, and stainless steel tumblers, and then all manner of t-shirts, hats. All of our gear will be available, and you'll be able to see the stainless steel French presses, the Bodum style French presses, all of our coffee for sale, coffee bean grinders. So you can really come into Smith & Cannon by Christmas and hook up your best friend with the coffee kit and get them started doing coffee right. So they're not doing dumb coffee at home anymore. So we're just kind of develop all of these things and put them together, but try to stay in our lane. And our lane is just coffee and ice cream.
I like it. Well, tell the audience how you joined the coffee club.
Sure. So the coffee club, my freezer's kicking off. So the coffee club, it's called the Stay Fresh Coffee Club. So you get to stay fresh, and I love that. Anyway, the Stay Fresh Coffee Club has been super fun. Our members get a lot of bonuses. So how you join? You can go to Smith & Cannon, smithcannon.com. It's one word, smithcanon.com. And once you go there, you can go to the table of contents on the website, and you go to the Stay Fresh Coffee Club, and it'll describe the coffee club. It'll describe how it works. You click on it, you join the coffee club, all of a sudden you're getting 25% off your coffee beans all month. It's a great deal. So if you've ever snobbed out on coffee, you know that coffee services can cost you anywhere from $40 for a single bag, or $25 for a single 10-ounce bag that gets delivered to you once a month, up to $175 if you want a super premium coffee and you want to have it delivered weekly in 10-ounce bags. So what we do here is basically tell all those guys to go take a hike. It's not worth it. Just come to Smith & Cannon. So we get our coffee roasted every week. We have a limited number of members that can be members of the coffee club at any one time, but we will keep a running list of people on deck if you'd like to join. We get our coffee roasted every week. You get notified whenever your beans come in. You're basically paying for 3 bags at a time up front. That's at $13 a bag. It's a really good price for premium coffee. And so at $39, we buy your 4th bag for you. So you're actually getting 4 bags, for instance, over the course of the month at 25% off. It's a really good deal. But the beauty is you don't have to take them all at once. So like I said, if you're really snobbing out on your coffee, then you want it fresh. So instead, you come pick up your 1 bag at a time. We keep a queue. We keep a tally of how many beans you've taken, how many are in your queue. You get email notifications on that. It's super slick. If you really want to get your coffee right away and you need to have it delivered, email us. Coffee club members can do that, and we'll deliver your coffee right to you. So we've tried to make a coffee service that's as high-end as possible in quality, as convenient as you can imagine, and then offering you the freshest possible option on the beans themselves. And that was the idea. And it's been fun. Our coffee club members really dig it.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with all of that. How can you go wrong with the pricing, the way it's done, everything?
I think it works. The only thing that it's missing is the one item that we really sell the most of here, particularly in all the seasons outside of winter. We do a nitro cold brew ice cream float. You'll see pictures of it online all over the place when you go to social media about Smith and Cannon, or any articles have been written about it. It's delicious. So the nitro cold brew coffee by Whiskey Barrel will change your life. And I was trying to figure out last year, how can we find I need a beverage that's going to just smack people in the face and make them super happy, but it's got to be something you can really just get here. I really want it to be our own beverage. I think the idea of pairing our very unique flavors with coffee and creating some flavors specifically for that deserves that. So having a conversation with Tall Fishman from Whiskey Barrel, and I said, does anybody do nitro cold brew ice cream floats? And he said, I've been trying to convince people of this forever, Curt. I've been trying to tell them forever. And I said, well, I'm doing it. And so that's what we're doing. So Tall came over to the store. He modified my soda fountain. So we have nitro cold brew nitro cold brew coffee on tap here. And we make you a nitro cold brew ice cream float with our Foxy Brown ice cream, which tastes like cheesecake and cinnamon rolls, the butter brickle, the Thai tea ice cream, or the black coffee. I promise it'll change your life. You have a monkey on your back. It's called Nitro Cold Brew. It'll be clinging to you like this.
I mean, I'm definitely going to have to come by and get one for
I
sure.
hope so.
I mean, I'm scared that it'll change my life in a bad way, meaning I'll have to come back like every other day.
That is not a bad thing.
You're speaking to the foodie in me and the dream.
I hope so.
So tell us about how many employees do you have, and was it just, I think it was just you at the beginning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was just me for the first 2 months, February, March, and then in April, about mid-April, was when I hired my first employee, who was kind of going to manage this place. And I've had the most employees I've ever had is right now. So I changed some things when the pandemic occurred, and really it was before March. Things were starting to get a little weird even late February, and business owners know this, particularly restaurant owners. A lot of people that were watching the news and that were kind of paying attention to what was happening internationally were a lot more skittish when they were coming into the store. And I understood why. I try to pay close attention to what's happening in the world, and it just seemed like it was a matter of time. So because of that, we changed a number of things actually before the first initial actual lockdown. We started doing some social distancing measures pretty early, and I was particularly concerned about my employees physically handing cones to people, and I was also concerned about the amount of effort it takes to get at frozen ice cream. Like your face is in it, you're pointed at it, and you're scooping it. That's just a lot of contact, and it was making me nervous. What I was worried about, on top of making anybody sick or having my employees become sick or myself, I was worried not just about that, but it was about also, and that was the most important, but liability. I was worried about, like, look, if I know there's a problem and I know this is an issue, I would hate to have an outbreak at my store and have that, I guess, traced back to my store. Like, wouldn't that be like radioactive? And particularly at that moment in the beginning where people weren't even sure this was really happening. So that was terrifying too, on top of everything else. So I changed some things. I reduced the prices on our half pints. I changed the menu. We stopped doing cones and scoops, and we probably won't do cones and scoops until probably after next flu season. Probably, unless something dramatic changes. And we've focused more on sending people out of here with packages. That was really where it was kind of headed before anyway. And as more people got acquainted with the ice cream, we were selling more and more pints and half pints anyway. So it was kind of a natural progression. So we began getting actually busier because of that. And then during the pandemic, the beginning of the initial outbreak, um, I really changed a lot. So I changed the online store to accommodate for pickup, curbside and delivery. And so my store at first had just been merchandise. There had been some T-shirts and that sort of thing. I, you know, I should have done this before probably, but I just wasn't thinking in these terms. And I guess necessity is the mother of invention is that phrase. But so I changed the store online and modified that to accommodate these other fulfillment methods, right? Um, who knew people would like delivery ice cream? Go figure. The next thing you know, we're doing like 15 and 20 deliveries a day. It was really over the top. The people that had known about us before and had been purchasing pints and half pints were then telling their friends, hey, and by the way, this place is so COVID safe. I mean, they really specialize in pints and half pints anyway. You should really go and check them out. So the next thing you know, we're actually getting pretty busy. So then something like horrible and great happened all at the same time. It was terrifying. So it was like a viral post that happened, and some of the people watching your show might have saw this. So I was on the cover of 303 magazine about 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, and I wasn't just on the cover once for all intents and purposes, because what occurred was the first article was 40 black businesses in Denver you can support, and it was right after the George Floyd murder. So my face is on the cover, my store's behind me, I'm just coming out of my store, I've got the mask on. um, so that went out. That was very nice, great. Terrible circumstances, but thank you for the coverage. And glad that a lot of people that didn't know that this black-owned business was here then discovered it. Fantastic. However, the next day, a bunch of businesses, and good on them, got in touch with 303 and were like, hey, what about my business? So 303 did what they should have done, which is they created a funnel so that all these businesses could line up. And then if people were paying attention to that series, that article was then reposted like every 3 or 4 days. And it was updating like, hey, here's 100 black-owned businesses. Hey, here's 150. Hey, here's 200. Okay, well, every time that happened, my face went out all over the country, and it was crazy. And so every business that was associated with that article and all the people associated with those businesses, every moment, like, were reposting that. I had friends in places like North Dakota and South Carolina and way South Texas say, hey man, why's your face all over my news feed today? I mean, that literally happened over and over again for like weeks. Well, we sold out of ice cream. So the Tuesday following the first article that came out, we actually sold an obnoxious amount of ice cream. Every fluid in the store was sold. Every coffee bean, every drop of ice cream, it was all gone. I managed to make enough ice cream that day and that night to sell ice cream the next day and a half. And then we had to close the store for 2 days just to catch up. So then I had to change things again. So it was actually time to reinvest, buy a new ice cream machine, and increase our capacity. This is something I'd wanted to do for quite a while, but it was really hard to justify. Business owners out there, a lot of them know this, a lot of them are going to discover this, but there are these equations that are just really all about your business, and you really need to be developing these equations for yourself. And nobody can tell you that part. It's up to you to master all the parts of your business and understand how these disparate parts affect each other. For me, there was no possibility of upgrading my capacity to produce without hitting a certain number every day. That just had to happen to justify that. That finally had started to occur between selling all the packages, the deliveries. We'd made it to that point where I could definitely justify doing it. So purchased a machine that quadrupled our production rate, and then created a new system here for creating that solved two problems. I wanted to increase our capacity, but I also wanted to stay on this theme of keeping my employees safe and making the ice cream more accessible to the patrons that come in. So I put a glass-topped freezer chest in the front of the store. We're actually having that wrapped like an automobile with our logo pretty soon. But the freezer chest now has all of our half pints. So what's become popular here is getting a 4-pack. It's coming in either by yourself for your fridge at home or with a couple friends and getting 4 half pints of ice cream. And you can just reach into the freezer and pick which flavors you want. You sack them in a produce bag, and we ring you up for a 4-pack. And so it's very hands-free. You don't have to really approach the cashier. It's a pretty simple way to get down here, and that has really taken off. So all of a sudden, we do sell dozens of 4-packs during the day. It's really, really popular. People have been telling me they're coming in from out of town, like Colorado Springs and Boulder and Fort Collins, to get a 4-pack to take home. So that's been kind of fun too. But the adjustment has then led to having to hire more people. So right now, I have 4 people working here. One person's full-time. I have one person that helps me make ice cream, and that person works about 50 hours every couple weeks, and then 2 part-time people. So I imagine we will have a full-time person, a part-time person, and probably a co-ice cream maker in the fall and winter. And that's about that. We'll hire another person. I'm sorry. We'll hire one more person. There's only one more thing. We'll hire one more person to take over all of the coffee services, but they have to hit a certain number. After we get to a certain number of members in the coffee club, a certain number of businesses that like the on-site coffee service, then we'll actually hire somebody to just run the coffee side of Smith and Canon. And then I think we'll be pretty much ready to roll. It's that.
So excited for you, seriously, because I mean, you mentioned so many things. Just going back to the community, like you said with that article, and I have to stop here. Have a couple of comments, and I want to share them with you. Shara's joined us. Good morning, Shara. She's the previous guest, and she says this is why small business matter. You made choices with your employees and the customer in mind, not just the bottom line. Kudos to your strategy, creativity, and vision. I echo that. You spoke, everything I heard was about adjusting and being flexible and noticing what your customer needed. And to me, that's what makes you successful.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you.
It really does.
That was the focus.
Yeah, we've got Annalise on joining us. Good morning, Annalise. And
thanks, Char.
She says she's coming by today. She will be by. Yes.
Don, I will see you, Annalise. I'm holding you to that, girl.
Exactly. She's taking me, Annalise. What time are you picking me up? Because we're going together. And that true story probably will. She probably will be coming by anytime. Danya, good morning. She's just clapping and giving you kudos, just saying, everybody loves the Foxy Brown name.
Oh.
We got several comments on that, and I love the gear. I did look at all your gear on the website and the Foxy Brown t-shirts. Yeah, I definitely that's going to be my first purchase of merchandise.
Thanks. Don't forget the Foxy Brown stickers are always in full effect. So if you want to get your Foxy Brown gear on, swing through, grab a sticker on the way out. So the gear, the gear is important. So the original idea of this place was to create kind of a boutique. There's different philosophies on how to do shopkeeping. And there was an article I read years ago, and I wish I could find it now. It was back when I was a kid, really. And it talked about, it was like juxtaposing Western styles of shopkeeping versus Eastern styles. And specifically, they were looking at shopkeepers in Taiwan, I believe it was. And it was interesting, like the philosophy in the East, like in the West, if you're trying to sell something, was your valuable items, you focus that, and you have your valuable items kind of on display. And then everything else is kind of behind that or lower than that, or it's secondary. And that works. That's the style. And then there's the style in Taiwan was interesting. It was like this article was calling this Asian style, and it was kind of a generalization, but was this concept where you line your walls with goods, and everything pertaining to whatever your subject is, you're lining your walls from top to bottom. You just want to overwhelm someone almost with the amount of goods that you can offer, which is not how we do things in the West. However, you want to learn lessons, right? You always want to learn lessons about like possibilities, options, how I might sell it, strategies. So my concept originally for this was to start out fairly sparse because it made economic sense. Buying lots of gear is a big investment. That's a ton of extra money. I hoped that we could do enough with the branding of this place, um, like initially, to create some branding opportunities later. And this would turn into kind of a boutique. So we're about to turn that corner, and I alluded to that earlier. So we are going to start having all of our branded goods all over the walls in this place. So you will be able to come and really outfit yourself or your people with great coffee gear. You'll be able to get them into doing coffee right, like tomorrow, if you want. And so that started really last Christmas. We started selling the cups, the t-shirts, all the stickers and the gear, the stainless steel tumblers, all last Christmas. And we sold out of absolutely everything over and over. Yeah, we're not open right now. People are giving me sign language from outside. And I'm like, no. So like, I'll be here in 30 minutes, I promise. So in any case, that's about to turn the corner, and we're really excited about that. We've had a lot of positive feedback about the branding, about the logos, about the gear. People have been ordering t-shirts from all over the country. We've sent t-shirts all over the place. The Foxy Brown stickers were really popular. The Strabanero logos were just created and are just magical, and people really, really love them. So we're really excited about that too. That's a big deal. Denver is a touristy place, and so that is good for that sort of business for sure. But also, when you've got something that, if you can make your brand iconic, but you can make it something cool, like something that people like are proud to say they're associated with that brand, with that logo. And that's what any business owner wants. And that was definitely something that we wanted to go for immediately, is to try to create a brand that was maybe bigger than the store. So that's kind of the goal, part of the goal this year.
I love it. I mean, you're on a roll. I love it. And what's so exciting is to hear that you have pivoted and shifted and adjusted in COVID, and it's actually worked out, and it's bigger and better than it even was before.
In some ways, it has forced me to make some decisions though that I wouldn't have otherwise made. I mean, I'm quick to point that out. Like it's hard not to go the safe path. And before COVID, my idea was, gosh, if we had 100 transactions a day last summer, I guess I have to somehow figure out a way to do 140. Was my thought process, and I really had to go back to the drawing board when faced with the idea that you're going to have less transactions. I have a number of business owners up and down Colfax have become good friends of mine in the last 2 years. And I can tell you that across the board, we're all at between 50 and 70% less transactions per day. It's devastating. There's a reason why all these restaurants are closed. There's a reason why bars and other businesses, auxiliary businesses, have had to close. You're not getting the benefit of walk around traffic just by having a good location anymore. That's not happening. So I had to satisfy those equations. If I have less transactions, but the number that I need to see every day is X, well, I need to sell differently. Like I need to offer people my product in a different way. I still need to make it palatable for them. It still needs to make sense economically for them and for me. Like that all has to occur, and I've got to figure that out right now. Like I cannot wait because it happened immediately. Like, I mean, one day everything was normal. The next day, nobody was coming in your store. It was scary.
And speaking of location, please share with the audience you said Colfax. I want them to know your cross streets, and I know it's on your website as well. And I did type your website in the comments. So,
oh, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's York and Colfax. We're at 2260 East Colfax. We're on the southwest corner of that intersection, and we're across the street from what used to be Three Lions, the soccer bar, DC Pie, great pizza place, right across the street as well. And we share a building with Brews, which is a Belgian-style tap room. We do some beer and ice cream pairings with them at times that are delicious. Back before things were all germy. and stuff. And so or virusy, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not sure how you verbate that. So there's a number of businesses, and we're just a few blocks west of East High School.
Yes, and a lot of those that are from here know exactly where East High School is. So that's a good reference always.
Giant high school.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, Curt. I can't tell you. It has been a pleasure to hear just the background of your business and the journey and the legacy piece. I love, love, love. That was my favorite. Just sharing with your daughters, and I can't wait to see how your family grows the business and just see how you pass that down to your daughters. That's everything. So just
thank you so much
for doing that. Yeah.
And thank you for doing what you're doing. Super valuable. Really appreciate it. There was no way I was going to miss the opportunity to take part in this. You're doing fantastic work, and you do a great job.
Thank you. Absolutely. And for those of you that don't know, I have a Jessica Springs YouTube page. I'll tell you, it's brand new. I wasn't planning to go on YouTube, but again, folks were asking about the show. So I wanted a space that they could go back and rewatch it, not just on Facebook Live. So if you go to Jessica Springs on YouTube, all of our Takeover Tuesdays that we have done thus far are on there, and you can rewatch them, share them with your friends, because all of them are local business owners, and actually nationwide. We have one, actually Danya's on our line right now. She does global. So we have folks on there that can support our community here and all across the United States, just like you said with your ice cream going national.
Thanks for that. I want to add one more thing. If I can, real quick. We are in the process of developing the franchise model for both out of state and in state. We've had a lot of interest for franchising from out of state, and that process is all starting right now. But we are actually looking for a few locations to happen actually here in Denver and in the outlying communities. So there are some opportunities there. If any of your people are interested or know people that might be, they can email at coffee@smithcannon.com for franchise information, and I'll get back to them.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's phenomenal. Wow.
We're excited.
Can't wait to see what happens. Well, Curt, thank you. I have your website in the comments. People know where to reach you. I will probably see you later on today. Seriously.
All right. Sounds good. Take care, Jessica. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Stay well and stay inspired. Until next time on Takeover Tuesdays.